there, welcome to my show RNR Talks. Today, our next podcast is with Dr. Isha Bhafna. So, she is a physiotherapist and she is a prenatal, postnatal coach. She has done a lot of work for wellness of women and kids, and now for overall family health also. So, welcome to my show, ma'am. And she is also has done her like she started Thought Foods, which is like a micro entrepreneurship, and there are many things more in line as well. So we'll hear it from her only in the entire journey of our podcast. So I want to start my first segment, and I want to know from you what is your inspiration to start these line of things that you are already doing in the area of work for women and kids, and what inspires you? And I know that you have two daughters. Post that, how is the journey been, or how do you juggle life with kids and family?
Thank you so much, firstly, for inviting me. And I think that's a very, very complex question to answer, but let me help, answering this as brief as I can. So this all started when I was studying physiotherapy. Back then, there was not much of awareness of, pregnancy-related stuff. In fact, when I used to ask a lot of questions to my lecturer about women's health, they were, to be honest, clueless. So I Googled myself about pregnancy care, and somewhere the word popped in Lamaze. Now, there were no roots out there, so I asked my seniors. They also weren't aware. This is back in 2010. And then I felt like, let's just go ahead, Isha. कुछ करते हैं, कुछ पढ़ते हैं. Professionally नहीं तो personally काम आ जाएगा. And it was an eye opener when I started studying for Lamaze. What things that I learned, I was sure that I'm going to make my pregnancies amazing. And maybe in future, if I can help people around, I would love to support them. Now, when all this thing was starting, I realized that pregnancy is such a sensitive phase कि लोग बहुत घबराए हुए हैं क्या करना है क्या नहीं और उससे ज्यादा डबल घबराए हुए हैं जब बच्चा बाहर आ जाता है बिकॉज सब अलग अलग एडवाइस देते हैं और आजकल के जमाने में 7-8 बच्चे थोड़ी ना होते हैं जस्ट 1 or 2 एंड दैट्स व्हेन योर एंटायर अटेंशन इज ऑन दैट चाइल्ड वो एक प्रोजेक्ट सा बन जाता है सो यू वांट टू डू द बेस्ट फॉर दिस चाइल्ड अब सोचो मैं पकड़ू क्या इसमें से मतलब डॉक्टर बोल रहा है वो करूँ मम्मी बोल रही है वो करूँ सासू बोल रही है वो करूँ व्हाट टू डू you're all confused and that's where you actually take away the pleasure of motherhood आप एंजॉय नहीं कर पाते हो यू आर एब्सोल्युटली इन स्ट्रेस आप कभी भी देखो कोई भी बच्चा प्लान करते घबराता है बच्चा होने के बाद घबराता है और किसी को देखे कि ओ माय गॉड इसकी हालत कैसी तो डर जाता है प्लान करने के लिए सो आई थिंक देयर सो मच अराउंड दैट आई फेल्ट जस्ट प्रेगनेंसी में to specialize is not enough. This pushed me to go furthermore. This is also the time that I conceived my first child in 2014. And, she taught me so many things. I think there were many mistakes that I did, while feeding her. जिससे मैं गई थोड़ी और न्यूट्रिशन की तरफ. This is where, from a physiotherapist, I became a prenatal, postnatal coach. And now that I'm, also a nutritionist, I understood that people are now also struggling with the fact that राइट चीज क्या है आजकल के जमाने में सब मिलावट वाला है राइट सो इफ आई हैव टू मेक माय चाइल्ड्स फ्यूचर वेरी स्ट्रांग then what is the best thing that I can do is provide the right kind of food. My father-in-law had a love for organic farming, and he's planted n number of trees so far. And with his passion, my expertise, also my mother-in-law support. She's excellent in kitchen, and my husband's entrepreneurship that we together, of course, along with my help of children, I always say, develop Thought Foods. So Thought Foods is an organic food brand. It's an organic certified food brand that I would say. And हमने शुरुआत इसकी की थी just pregnant लोगों के लिए, post pregnancy and बच्चों के लिए. But then seeing the demand, seeing the entire love that started coming, we thought it's not just here. We need to cater the entire family. So now, yes, Thought Foods is for the entire family. And हमारी शुरुआत एक mere च्यवनप्राश से हुई थी. So my daughters, when they were just, I talk about 2014, my daughter's birth, मुझे बाहर का च्यवनप्राश नहीं देना था. क्यों? क्योंकि उसमें सोडियम बेंजोएट आता है. So you give something healthy with a preservative doesn't make sense. Right. So that's when, I told my mother-in-law, चलो घर पे बना लेते हैं. Found out recipes, Ayurvedic doctor से बात किया, clubbed my nutrition knowledge, and jaggery based च्यवनप्राश बनाया. People started knowing about it. They started asking कि हमें भी चाहिए. And then, my students, again, pregnancy, post pregnancy, they said we also want it. So वहां से शुरुआत करते करते now from one product we have closely 38 products.
38 products.
Yes, and
That's
we
good
deliver
lineup.
pan India. So घर से शुरुआत हुई थी और अब we are India. Hopefully we will soon be outside also.
Okay. And are your daughters your inspiration?
Absolutely. वो नहीं होते तो मैं यहाँ पे होती भी नहीं, because I think motherhood teaches you to be a super woman for everyone. It's not me, I think. So आप कैसे juggle कर सकते हैं वो आपके बच्चे सिखा सकते हैं. पहले जो आप नहीं कर सकते थे वो बच्चे आसानी से करवा लेते हैं. And more to that, my field is also such that the experience has helped me a lot. So when you experience something, you can relate to other person's problems. And that's where, yes, they are my real teachers. I think in every session, I keep on talking about them.
Yeah, I know. I have. I've noticed that.
Yes.
And what about your husband's contribution? Of course, you told us in the beginning that you guys have co-founded or co-worked on this particular product of yours. However, I still want to know how much important it is for husbands to support women if they have to go so much ahead.
More than 100%. It's not possible to wear all the hats without some support. And the first immediate support is husband support. And I think my husband and my family are doing a fabulous job. That's why I'm sitting here. My kids are right there with my family currently.
Yeah.
Of course, my husband is handling Thought Foods. My in-laws are handling both the kids. But if that support wouldn't have been there, I wouldn't have been at ease right now and talking so, carefree to you.
True. And what about in-laws and home? So how do you manage that?
I think we've divided our responsibilities. We give each other space. So when I have to step out, they know it's important. They will take care. When they have to step out, I know I need to curtail my commitments down and I need to be home. So I think that understanding has worked very well. And I think planning. मैं हर चीज ना मेरी बैग में डायरी रहती है. मैं कौन से टाइम पे क्या करती हूँ मैं सब लिखती हूँ. So I don't sleep before that. So I think that keeps me going.
And I also want to know more about your Thought Foods is one thing you spoke. And I also know that you have a community bump to birth.
Correct.
That's how I got introduced to you.
Correct.
Through somebody, because I myself was, like you said, when I became a mother also, the first thing that when I reached the 7th month and I think my festivities were over, Good Bharai was over, I told my husband, now I don't know what to do. I mean, I don't know, because I don't know how this entity is going to be, how I'm going to handle this. I don't know how to pick up a child. I don't know how to do anything. So, of course, in my experience, like you said, Lamaze, I came through, that's why I want to do this podcast, and I want to tell people that, there has to be more awareness about it. In my time, this particular thing, I didn't know how many people do it, who do it. It was considered very expensive where I went and consulted. So I really thought, I would rather go in for a Garb Sanskar and yoga. And also, I was doing a lot of Ayurvedic during my pregnancy. So it was already a lot of very expensive affair for me. And then this Lamaze thing was comparatively not coming under my budget.
Correct.
However, that's a different topic to deal with. But with talking to you, I realized that there are more practitioners or there are more people who are more aware about it. So that thing, I couldn't experience it during, of course, later on things came into being. But what I want to know is what else, what more are you doing? Like what all is there in your pipeline? Because I know there's a lot of things that you are doing in your pipeline. So can you just tell the audience about it?
Sure. So, as I told you, I'm basically a physiotherapist. So, I handle a clinic in Mumbai, in South Mumbai, and I have my musculoskeletal physiotherapy out there. Now, beyond this, my pregnancy support or post pregnancy support is available at the clinic, but majorly online. Because I understand sometimes it's very difficult for a mother to travel, to be committed, especially a mother who's just given birth. For her to fix up time according to the child's schedule is very difficult. Traveling takes the time, right? So that's when the online sessions, I think, COVID taught us this. We were never so good in online, and COVID opportunity made us an expert how to have equivalently great sessions even online. So we have this entire support spread out line. Beyond pregnancy, post pregnancy. So when I talk about pregnancy, post pregnancy, we make the mother fit in pregnancy both ways, physically also with our fitness sessions and even with her Lamaze sessions, mentally and emotionally, so that she's ready for birthing. Now, when we talk about post birth, what's the first thing that comes to your mind is fitness, right? So, how should I get back to shape? How should I make my back pain, neck pain better?
Right.
So, we have all those sessions, especially diastasis recti. You have separation of the muscle in the front. Whether you have a C section or a vaginal birth, if your weak abdominal muscles is going to happen. So, that's another segment that we cater to. Postnatal nutrition, not just for the mothers, but also child, starting solids, later on toddler.
Right.
So that's where we were, doing all these things under Proactive 9 and Bump to Burp that you are a part of. But then, as I told you, that this entire thing got more flourished and reached to families. Now I have a bigger team.
Right.
There are many associate partners with me, and now I do an entire family. So whether it be any nutritional condition that we cater to, if it is any kind of physiotherapy we cater to. So it's from physiotherapy, front and back, pregnancy, post pregnancy, and also nutrition at all segments and all ages that we do.
Okay.
So that's
So-
all under Freedom Wellness now.
So going to a next segment, it's a connecting question. I wanted to start by asking you. Um, See, when I delivered to C-section, my husband in the next 7 days came up to me and told me that we will have to go in for physiotherapy. I have never heard anyone having C-section and physiotherapy. So I retaliated and told him that you have become father, but you have lost the brains like mothers, like this thing. So he said it's not like that. I have a friend whose wife has been suffering, and after 1.5 year or 2 years of birth of the child, they have been referred to go and for physiotherapy sessions. I am thinking, why should we wait? We'll do it thoda jaldi. So of course I resented. We didn't have the time. Baby was small and everything. Then I went into pain in the third or fourth week of delivery, and I was in tremendous pain, so much pain that I couldn't even move. So we have a local physiotherapist here. I called her. She gave me physiotherapy sessions, and I didn't know. Within 2 sessions, I think I was quite okay. She also told me that you require it, but maybe not majorly, but definitely you require it. And 2 sessions was more than enough for me. So my question here is that what's the reason why this is never been told in any, like I never read about this. There is no information about this. There is nobody who talks about it, that how important, because I know I have suffered other things probably after my pregnancy, but I have not suffered from the epidural pinch or pain, whatever they call it, which lot of my friends they go through. So I want to know, why is this so hidden, or is there an agenda behind it, or is it like people never knew, or is it come up new, or was it always there?
So I think your question. Let me just summarize in a way which I've been frequently asked कि पहले के ज़माने में ये सब क्यों नहीं होता था, अब के ज़माने में क्यों हो रहा है? So I think the problem is our lifestyle. पहले के ज़माने में इंडियन टॉयलेट्स होते थे, हम नीचे बैठ के खाते थे, झाड़ू पोछा कपड़ा बर्तन करते थे. That used to make things very easy for natural birthing. अब हम क्या करते हैं, हम बैठे रहते हैं सोफे पे, हम कुर्सी पे बैठे रहते हैं, then we go for these fancy classes, right? Now, why these fancy classes are required? Because we are not doing those bits. So that's where, when a mother comes to me, और कभी कोई दादी आ जाती है क्लास में, बोलती है ये सब क्यों जरूरत है, हमने तो कभी नहीं किया, ऐसे बच्चे बड़े क्या है हमने. So that's where I ask her कि आपके बच्चे इसमें से क्या करते हैं. She's like कुछ भी नहीं करते हैं. So the entire pampering is there from the physical viewpoint, and also with the viewpoint कि the tolerance of pain has just died with generation. The kind of pain tolerance that earlier age groups had, not just physical pain I'm talking about, I'm also talking about emotional, mental pain. It was very different. We just shatter very quickly now. So that's where the reason why fitness is required. पहले के ज़माने में, people used to carry गड़ा, बच्चे संभालते थे. That's no less than strength training. What are we doing now? Nothing. And we just give birth, and now we're holding children. Why the reason that you were saying why physiotherapy is required, or why there is no awareness? Of course, why there is no awareness is a topic that we can discuss later on, because there lot of other healthcare professionals are involved, from gynecologists to obstetrician to people whom you trust and you ask and they refer you to. But क्यों जरूरी है ये मैंने आपको reason दे दिया. So either you make yourself extremely capable of handling a child, and if not, you'll have to take therapies like this.
Okay. And so we had a discussion, and you told, I've also read about it in your reels and Instagram also. You have gone through water birth.
Yes.
Now, water birth is something which is very uncommon in India. So knowing that itself is a very like I don't know, I find it very miraculous, I would say, because India is not a place where we don't even doctors gynecologists actually don't speak to you also about it.
Yes.
They tell you या तो सी सेक्शन कर लो, नॉर्मल हो गया तो बहुत अच्छी बात है, आप बहुत लकी हो, तो कर सकते हैं तो करेंगे, नहीं तो सी सेक्शन ही करेंगे. So how did you opt for it, and what was the procedure? And I really want to know more about it. That where did this happen? Because I'm sure there's a lot of awareness about it in today's generation. But I want people, like, I want to tell people that if you want to do it, you should be encouraged to do it.
Yes.
I don't know why it's like not there, or डॉक्टर्स के पास आप जाओ तो they say कि इतना कुछ यहाँ पे कोई इतना emphasize नहीं करता उस बारे
Right, right. So, yes, I had a lot of people who were amazed to listen to water birth. I had a lot of people who made fun when I chose to do water birth. I had a lot of people who scared me for, choosing water birth. Having said that, I think again the strong support system that I had studied this in Lamaze. So that's where I told you that, personally, I was so lucky to do Lamaze because I knew the concepts. I was sure about why am I doing it. If I have to label it, in layman term, it worked like a natural epidural for me.
right.
So it helped me manage my contractions so beautifully well. But of course, if my husband wouldn't have supported in this birth plan of mine, this wouldn't have been possible. I will not deny that water birth has a lot of controversies in the sense, it's contraindications, indications. Who can do this? You need to have expert people to have know about water birth to help you support throughout. So a lot of things, and also even though Mumbai is an updated city, but there are not many water birth options around here. So if you see, all the water birth options are there in the other part of the town and not in South Mumbai. So when I had to do water birth first time, I had to travel to the other part of the town. So I stay in South Mumbai. I had to go to suburbs to do this. Now my birth was
It's
super
the reverse.
fast.
Okay, it's the reverse. Like otherwise, mostly everything is, yeah,
Exactly.
everything is
Yes,
out
yes.
here.
So there are super experienced doctors here, but they do not support water birth. So that was the prime reason for me to travel there. Now my first birth was very, very quick. Okay. So with every pregnancy, with every birth, your duration of labor reduces. So considering that fact, I did not have a chance to go and travel the second time to suburbs.
Okay, okay.
So that's when there was no option, and I just did a regular, natural vaginal birth in South Mumbai. So I've experienced both of them. Both were beautiful, but of course, the entire contraction agony was being taken away by water birthing. So if that's an option for you, do try. If water birth is something a doctor may not agree medically, then make the best out of water labor. Nobody will say no, nothing. So you just go in the, your washroom and just pour in warm water on your abdomen and your lower back when you're getting your contractions. That's water labor. Just put yourself inside in a tub of water. That's
So it
water labor.
relieves a lot of
Exactly. अब जब कभी
stress and
दर्द होता है आपको तो कैसे गर्म पानी का सेक करते
right,
हैं.
right.
It just helps you manage this. You cannot run away from labor. It just helps you manage this.
So, what benefits are there for you personally in comparison to your first water birth experience that you had and the next vaginal experience that you had?
I cannot really compare for the fact because that was first and this was second. Second is always easy. So for me, that 0 to 10 centimeters was slow in the first birth, was super quick in the second birth.
Okay.
So there was, even if there would have been a pool of tub where I would have immersed myself, that would be having barely for few minutes because मेरा labor इतना fast था उस समय. So yes, for a first timer, I would say water birth. But having said that, even if water birth is not an option, because that's not option for everyone, you should know namaz techniques. And what are these namaz techniques? Three simple things: breathing, movement, and your positioning. अगर आप ये तीन चीज का ध्यान रखते हो, you can manage your labor very well.
So, what are the what do you suggest? I mean, how should pregnancy to birth be planned between husband and wife? I mean, what should be their probably five go-to things, or top of the mind things for today's generation?
I think it's a lovely question. If I have to just summarize in five things, let me take number one as the preconception training. It's not important only for the mother to be fit. In this generation, the father also has to be fit.
Okay.
So physical fitness and nutritional fitness I'm talking about, which can be even continued later on when she's pregnant, of course, according to her trimester or medical conditions. But that fitness should not be skipped. So I think two pointers, I've told already is about fitness, and the other is nutrition, because nutrition directly proportionate the growth of your child. जितना अच्छा खाएंगे उतना बेहतरीन growth. If you are lacking nutrition, it will show up somewhere or the other
In the
now
kid.
or maybe later, right? These are two things. Number third is talking to the baby. So when you have planned your baby, you have conceived. The word Garbh Sanskar, it's been, you know, quoted in our text back then, बहुत सालों से. और साइंस ने तो अभी बोला कि हाँ, it works actually womb talking. So बच्चे से बात करिए, मन में नहीं, जोर से बात करिए. That's very, of course, it's a very detailed topic, but just giving you a tip that womb talking मत छोड़िए. चौथी बात, लेबर क्लास हस्बैंड के साथ करिए. आप अकेले अकेले लेबर क्लास करोगे, आप अकेले अकेले वॉर पे चले जाओगे, तो आप अच्छे से मैनेज नहीं कर पाओगे. You need to have that support system around who can help you through. So yes, do the labor class, the Lamaze labor class with your husband.
So here there's another question that I have is, like in my case, I was gestinal, structure wise I'm small. Mother had this preconception that natural delivery नहीं होगा, ठीक है. ये सब मिला के ना वो लमास क्लास करने का एक डिटो एक वो था, like there was always a very disconnect and there was always a very
कि क्या मतलब नहीं है
कि
करने का.
क्या जरूरत है हमसे,
I understand.
I'm not going to deliver natural.
Yes,
Of course, I kept telling my family and myself that bolna is a wrong thing. I mean, how do you know? I mean,
Correct.
what your body has
Correct.
planned for you. However, I'm saying there might be people like me. I mean, very, very true. And also because people feel कि C-section, ऐसा लगता है कि C-section बहुत easy है. However, है नहीं. So, how would you encourage these kind of people? Is it required for them also, or is it fine to say कि ठीक है हम skip कर लेंगे क्योंकि हमें तो labor में जाना नहीं है?
right. Very good question. C-section is a lifesaver. It's not a luxury option, or it's not an option where somebody pushes you because of fear. I think probably the C-section which happened to you was लोगों ने आपको influence कर दिया, fear था, misinformation था
Actually,
probably.
in one case, it was also because I had some complications. Like my baby came out at 34 weeks. I had a blood clot in my umbilical cord.
Mm-hmm.
So and I had taken, they had given me steroids. Maybe my water broke early. So C-section in my case was unavoidable.
Understood.
However, uh, but I'm just telling you the atmosphere at home
Atmosphere
was
around, correct.
such that
That even if this wouldn't have been there, you would have been
Yeah,
pushed around
yeah.
there, right? So that's where coming back to the line that I said, C-section is a lifesaver. So when it is needed, you can't avoid
like
it, right?
my case,
Correct.
yeah.
But there are many unnecessary C-section which happens not because of the doctors, but sometimes because of the parents' decision and
Exactly,
what
yeah.
they're thinking about. So, underestimating the power of the mother, I would say, who is growing the baby inside, you can't underestimate that she can't remove the baby outside.
Right.
If she can grow this baby in that tiny pelvis, in that tiny body, why can't she even give birth with right support, with right exercise, with right knowledge? So I think we always say our mothers one thing. It doesn't matter what is the mode of birth. Ab C-section ho, vaginal birth ho, you're the best parent for your child, right? But it really matters that were you informed when you took a decision or not. So
Right.
if there is no medical condition, पर आपने डर से डिसीजन लिया तो आपने गलत किया. आप पूरा लमाज क्लास करिए, अंडरस्टैंड द प्रोसेस, रिमूव द फियर आउट, गेट द कॉन्फिडेंस. और उसके बाद अगर आपको लग रहा है कि नहीं अभी भी मुझे सी सेक्शन ही करना है, तो आपकी मर्जी, एब्सोल्युटली यू शुड डू व्हाट यू वांट.
Right.
But if you don't know, then don't plunge in because the recovery is very different.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
just try and go more natural. खाने की बात करूं या birthing की बात करूं, conceiving की बात करूं, first option is always natural.
Right. Also, I want to ask you one just a personal question. You fairly seem that you had a baby early stages, probably in your 20s. So, how is it like difficult for women nowadays who must be coming for you for consultation, who have, because most of my friends, including me, has had a child post in my 30s. So, what's the change in mindset that probably you see as a coach, or you see, is it more, I think people come to you more often at this particular stage of late pregnancy and late birthing, or is it that you still have people who are younger and, और या फिर younger stage में ऐसा होता है कि चल जाता है, like हम तो young है, baby तो आ ही जाएगा types?
Correct. So I think the population is divided 50-50. There are people who come in their 20s and there are people who are above 35 also. Yes, it is very, very easy when you're into 20s, not just with pregnancy and birthing, but also recovery. And also you get free faster. That I've noticed. People sometimes think कि अभी मैं बच्चा करूँगी तो बंद जाऊँगी. I may not be able to establish my career. I think I'm at the peak of my career now after
Right.
my kids are settled. So that's one of the hindrance that people have. I'm not saying that you cannot conceive after 30, but there would be certain hiccups in the journey which you need to be mentally strong enough from freehand. And even with right kind of support, with Lamaze sessions or right kind of doctor who are supporting you, you can still have natural birthing. I had so many mothers between the age of 35 and 40 who had the natural birth, who had beautiful pregnancies because they followed everything by the tree. But that, yes, there is always a possibility of, asterisk that you need to,
Yeah.
uh, you know, uh, just keep that in mind that this may happen. So I would, if somebody's uh, listening to this podcast and wants to know that which is the right time, I think it depends on how many children that you want to have. If you're planning to have two children, then you better have one in the 20s and the second in the 30s. If you're planning to have one child only, then maybe 30, 31 is the right. Don't push it beyond that.
So we'll go on to our next segment, which is Midnight Mamas.
Mhm.
So in this segment, basically, I wanted to know that what is the importance of nutrition for postnatal mothers, like in between 1 to 3 months. Uh, do Indian mothers usually overdo it or do they neglect it? Like what? How did you approach this particular thing?
I've seen on both extremes. There are people overdoing also, and people thinking, no, no, it's something that we should not, and this will put on my weight. So I've seen both the types of, extremist mothers. I think that's both wrong. You need to be right in the middle. The first important thing is the ingredients are so super strong, जो हमारे traditional ingredients हैं, that अगर आप वो नहीं खाएंगे तो future में आपको back pain, neck pain आने ही वाला है. But then also you need to understand that the amount of good fats, which is ghee that you use, is amazing, but not in the same way that your nani or dadi used to have. Because उनको 6 weeks के बाद बहुत hardcore work करना पड़ता था, right? हमें क्या करना है 6 weeks के बाद? It's not so much of hardcore work. So that ghee is going to deposit. So just remember, ghee is excellent, important. In fact, your requirement of ghee is much more important even than pregnancy after birth. बट उसको भी आप क्वांटिटी में खाइए. यू कैन कंसल्ट अ न्यूट्रिशनिस्ट, अंडरस्टैंड विथ योर प्रोफाइल कितना खाना है, और एक भी इंग्रेडिएंट स्किप मत करिए. इफ यूर अ महाराष्ट्रियन यू विल हैव अड़वचे लड्डू. इफ यू आर नॉर्थ इंडियन आप पंजीरी खाएंगे. आप अगर मारवाड़ी हैं तो आप गोंद के लड्डू खाएंगे. सो गुजराती वुड हैव अ डिफरेंट काइंड. सो एवरी वन हैज अ डिफरेंट स्पेशलिटी. आप खाइए, बट द क्वांटिटी इन टर्म्स ऑफ गुड फैट वो समझ के खाइए. सो डोंट बी एनीवेयर, जस्ट बी इन द मिडिल.
One very observational, I've observed this a lot in after my pregnancy and my breastfeeding thing also. I've seen mothers now of our this thing are basically third month they start losing milk. Why is this a pattern or is it just my observation? Or I've observed this in a lot of friends also who are mothers. First month it is good, like post delivery. Second is fine, and not that they are not having. They are having basics. हमने बोला मेथी लड्डू खा लो, किसी ने मेथी लड्डू खा लिया. हमने बोला पंजीरी खा लो, किसी ने irrespective of being a Maharashtrian or being a
They will
Sindhi or
consume.
either being a Punjabi, they will consume. But I've seen third month the dip comes, and when the dip comes, usually you become so vulnerable because you feel baby is not getting enough. So then automatically baby is transferred to formula.
Formula.
So is this like something consciously happening in our society because of the lifestyle that we are, or is it that the mothers are getting threshold is less? Probably, I don't know. So even in my case, okay, I definitely went on to formula because my child was born 2 kgs. So some like he was in the NICU and they told me feed formula and give breastfeeding, but give with chammach and spoon and katori. So by the time jab tak he is like he will be fine. Till the time you give chammach and katori, he will take breastfeeding. The moment you start bottle, he will not take your milk. And that's what happened. I continued both the things because I was worried about him being very small and very petite. So till the time 5 months tak I did this. I gave him chammach katori, somewhat formula, somewhat breastfeeding. And after 5 months, I had tragedy. I lost my mother. That time I lost my milk also. It stopped. Hence I started bottle feeding for him. But I've seen this trend where third month dip is definitely there. It was in my case also. However, it came back. I had good milk after that also. and then frustration level boils up and people start going on to formula. So
Yes,
I
yes,
want to
yes.
know for from
So
you.
there are a couple of reasons. Number one, what you just pointed is stress. Stress actually hampers your milk supply. Number two is also that you need to understand the first 2 months, the kind of diet that you have is so focused. For 6 weeks के बाद जो झापा period complete हो जाता है, you're back to your routine, it reduces. So if you're not balancing your diet, it can also be affected. Number three, most of the mothers have a little abundant milk supply in the first 6 weeks, and फिर वो उतना ही हो जाता है जितने बच्चे को चाहिए. So now you may experience that there is no hardness of breast. I'm not feeling leaking of milk. That is what you are now relating to lesser milk supply. But वो पहले ज़्यादा था and now it is just sufficing to your child's requirement. Now people around you, बच्चे थोड़ा रोया, अरे लग रहा है दूध कम आ रहा है. Baby is a little cranky. दुबला हल्का सा दिख गया एक दिन, so your milk is not coming, and you start accepting. So when the acceptance comes and all these things are coming up, then many a times not genuinely, but on the other hand, you indirectly get on to starting formula, which can be avoided honestly. Yes, there are some genuine instances where you have to start, but जो मैंने आपको कहा ये सारे reasons से हो, then you can immediately reverse and you can get back. There are things like starting back again your galactogogues, which is increasing your milk supply. Number one. Number two, pumping helps. Okay. Number three, support system. आप अकेले क्या क्या कर लोगे? So if you are doing the pumping work, storing the milk, the rest of the housework, because now you're 3 months, 4 months postpartum, you will not in the jhapa period. तो किसी को संभालना चाहिए. So if that support system is missing around, it will be affected. So yes, there are so many reasons around.
Can you tell one, two, three ingredients which are like superfoods or like which really
For
the women for
postnatal mothers,
postnatal? Yeah.
number one, I will say moringa. मोरिंगा इज आपका जो ड्रमस्टिक रहता है जो सांभर में डलता है उसके पत्ते. सो दे आर ड्राइड एंड यू फाइंड इट इन फॉर्म ऑफ मोरिंगा पाउडर. It's one of the amazing postpartum food, whether C-section, whether vaginal birth, whether breastfeeding, whether formula feeding, breast milk के लिए भी, recovery के लिए भी बहुत important है. It's not very tasty, let me be honest, okay? So इसको आप दाल में डाल दीजिए थोड़ा सा. When I say थोड़ा सा, for a post-pregnant mother, between 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon is the recommendation. So you can divide it in your sabzi or dal, mix it up, and then you can have it. You can't have it plain; it's not very.
So ये
amazing in taste.
बैद्यनाथ का जो मोरिंगा पाउडर एंड ऑल मिलता है, that supplement like
Yes, you can, but I would recommend again anything organic certified, because now pregnancy and post-pregnancy phase is such that you want to eat the best because somebody is relying on you. So I mean, again, I would recommend Thought Foods because the production is organic certified. There was a very recent article, this was discussed on Mum to Bub group, and I actually answered it regarding oats. So recently I answered this question on Bump to Verb group where they were asking that, there is a very famous brand of oats which, when tested, was found to be positive in a pesticide. So should we give oats to our children or not? Like, all his mothers are worried about their children. If they are eating oats, they're not really bothered. So I think I told them if, you can afford, because, organic products and non-organic products are a little differently priced. For the only reason is organic का जो yield रहता है वो कम रहता है. And when you put up pesticides and urea, your production is huge because वो बिगड़ता नहीं है. So if there's an affordability thing that वो आपको issue नहीं create कर रहा है, and you're more health conscious, always opt for organic certified things. And this is again not fancy. हमारे जो बुजुर्ग या परदादा थे, वो कैसी farming करते थे? जैविक. What is जैविक? Organic. The entire urea only came in the last 50, 75 years. So there's a long history back then with the government change rules and everything. But वो तब से ही आया यूरिया, उसके पहले था ही नहीं. So go back to the basics and you will live a healthy life.
Lack of nutrition is also the reason for postnatal depression.
Absolutely, not the only reason though. But yes, again, not lack of nutrition, but a lot of dietary restrictions. आप आलू नहीं खा सकते, आप तुवर नहीं खा सकते, आप जंक नहीं खा सकते. Now you need to understand first thing that of course आप जंक नहीं खाओ तो आपके लिए अच्छा है, ठीक है? So वो हम टॉक नहीं कर रहे हैं. But I, in my sessions, always recommend to my mothers 6 weeks तक absolute sattvic खाना खाओ. When I say sattvic is something which will not cause gas for you, not for the child. Child is secondary for me that time. Firstly, not for you. Okay. Number two, don't eat non-veg because your body is healing. Dairy products भी too much नहीं खाओ, in moderation. Once that entire healing process is done, go back to your routine, whatever you are eating. Because अगर आप वो routine में नहीं जाते हो 6 weeks के बाद, तो क्या होगा? आपके बच्चे को वो फ्लेवर्स नहीं जाएंगे. अगर बच्चे को वो फ्लेवर्स नहीं जाएंगे तो बच्चा आपका क्या होगा? फंसी होगा. फिर बच्चा वो खाएगा नहीं, बिकॉज दोस फ्लेवर्स आर नॉट कमिंग टू द बेबीज. सो यहाँ पे होता क्या है, 6 वीक्स तो हम कर लेंगे. उसके बाद भी अगर आपको ये सब चीजों से रिस्ट्रिक्ट किया जाता है, you will be frustrated. So there are two kinds of postnatal or postpartum depression. One is immediately after you give birth, right? Mother को लग रहा है मैं 4 दिवाली में पैक हूँ. My life has changed. This child is constantly crying. My life has become a mess. What will I do in my life? What was I doing earlier? And all those things, right? There, it's not just nutrition. There's a lot of support system around, expectations that you need to meet. The father's presence only for a non-stop 24 hours just for one day really makes a lot of difference. और एक होता है पोस्ट नेटल डिप्रेशन, जहाँ पे जस्ट हमने बात की, वेयर mothers are being stuck up with dietary restrictions, and they are still not able to do stuff around. उनको, they want to meet out their friends, they want to just have a tea party, they want to go for exercise class, they're not able to meet up ends. And that's where these two problems are there. And I would say dietary restrictions matter the most. So in my opinion, just make sure you're eating a healthy diet, as mentioned earlier, 6 weeks tak sattvic, later on जो भी आप खा रहे हैं, and आप बैलेंस न्यूट्रिशन खाइए. आप सब कुछ खाइए, गैसी फूड्स भी खाइए 6 वीक के बाद, क्यों नहीं? क्योंकि अगर आपने नहीं खाया तो आपके बच्चे को उसका फ्लेवर नहीं आएगा, आपका बच्चा यूज टू नहीं होगा.
So basically, this is what we miss out. People don't realize that. I mean, like how where you should get used to whatever you're eating in a pregnancy, you should get
Absolutely.
used to. They should get used to afterwards also.
Correct. Now, having said that, please don't eat pizza, pasta, and burgers, because then you don't expect your child to have that. So, there's a mother who told me कि थोड़ा थोड़ा तो खिलाना शुरू करो ना बच्चे को, 8-10 महीने पे, नहीं तो बड़ा होगा तो नहीं खाएगा. तो मैंने बोला आपका बच्चा पिज्जा बर्गर खाए, ये आपको इंक्लिनेशन ज्यादा है कि हेल्दी फूड खाए, वो तो कैसे भी सीख लेगा आपका बच्चा. यू बेटर फोकस ऑन द हेल्दी वर्जन. Occasional consumption doesn't do any harm to anyone, okay? Even I consume it. But then you should know what is the balanced nutrition ka proportion and what is the junk ka proportion. Balance it out and things are all okay.
And I just want to know how do you encounter first mothers who come to you weaning phase? So what is the burning question there?
When you talk about weaning, are you talking about breast weaning or are you talking
Yeah,
about
like
the starting solids part?
I think both. I mean, 5 to 6 months when mothers come to you and then burning question is that abhi when to start solids.
Right, right.
And
I think the very first thing that I make them realize is your breast milk or formula, whatever you're feeding, is still the primary source till 1 year. You're coming to me to know how to make the baby eat better by the time the baby reaches 1. So ये stress निकाल दो कि मेरा बच्चा तो खाता ही नहीं है. Because I think the entire problem starts out, मेरे बच्चे ने इतना ही खाया, मेरे बच्चे ने 1 चम्मच ही खाया, and then all the wrong things which I would love to talk, जो mothers को नहीं करना चाहिए, distraction feeding, force feeding, ये सब शुरू हो जाता है. The first thing is, remember, the primary source of nutrition for your child till age 1 is breast milk, formula milk. तो उसका मतलब ये है that you're introducing solids. You're just introducing. ये खा ले, टेस्ट कर कैसा लगा, नहीं पसंद आया, नो प्रॉब्लम. ये खा ले, टेस्ट कर कैसा लगा, अच्छा लगा, वेरी गुड. अब जो अच्छा लगा उसको मंडे टू संडे नहीं खिलाना है, नहीं तो बच्चा
Variety.
Exactly, that's the key. Give variety. Forget about how much quantity the child is eating, and make sure you're giving more nutritious food every single day in a variety.
So to tell the audience, basically I just attended her session before I did this podcast with her. A lot of other things happened from the session, but one thing that happened from the session was when I was telling the house help and I was telling the whole family. In my family, everyone is they're all men. There's no women because my mom and mother-in-law are not there. So I kept telling everyone, make him sit in one place and eat. Make him sit in one place and eat. This running around and eating is not happening. Not happening. Not happening. I've been doing. Maybe I have heard this from someone or it's my own experience seeing other mothers. They didn't listen to me, but then once they heard your session, now he sits on invested whatever invested chairs are there. He sits on those chairs, and now the TV is off for him.
Lovely.
And now the books are off for him. Okay,
Lovely.
yeah, of course. I used to give him the book when he used to eat. I used to tell him, book dekh le, TV mat dekh. But now that has also stopped since the time I've attended your session. So all that I'm saying is definitely. I mean, when you hear it from the third party, it makes a big difference. I mean, like for me, it's more difficult to convince because it's not nani dadi, it is dada, nana, and father and mama, and then it's me and the house help probably
Right,
who are trying to convince these people that, I mean, I have a different setup at my
right.
house, so I'm trying to convince them that this is the way we are supposed to do it, so they feel that I'm overpowering or I'm dominating. So third party, I think that's where you come into picture, where you need consultation to understand that. And I
I
think
think
that's where
it's
Indian society has a problem.
that's where is the bottom line or the root cause of all the problems. I strongly believe, who's the best doctor for the child? The mother. उसको सब पता है बच्चे को कैसे करना है, क्या करना है, किस तरह करना है. But she is easily vulnerable, getting confused all around. What people suggest. किसी ने ये कह दिया, किसी ने वो कह दिया, and sometimes you are even helpless, right? That if I don't have the support system around, how will I take care of this child? So let
Exactly.
me just follow what they are saying because then who will support me?
Right.
So I think आप अपना काम बढ़ाते हो जब आप बच्चे को डिस्ट्रैक्ट करके खिलाते हो एंड इट्स पीसफुल व्हेन द चाइल्ड ईट्स एट अ गिवन प्लेस क्वांटिटी को नजरअंदाज कर लो एंड see how the child is enjoying that's and this feedback that I'm just getting right now. I think the most amazing feedback where the mother says कि मैंने distract करना बंद कर लिया तो उसका मतलब है you have taught something right in the
नो,
class and
इन
you've done
माय
this.
इन माय केस मैंने ही डिस्ट्रैक्ट करना नहीं बंद कर दिया, मेरे परिवार ने डिस्ट्रैक्ट
This
करना
is
बंद कर दिया.
amazing तो
बिकॉज आई टोल्ड द परिवार वाला कि भैया ये बात तो मैं आपको कितने दिन से बता रही हूँ, मेरी बात नहीं सुन रहे तो उनकी बात तो सुन लो. So after that, I saw that the chair was being pulled from the kitchen
I
till the
can believe
bedroom,
it.
and then the pair. Then there are two houses which we are juggling between grandfathers and grandfathers. So both the places
Uh-huh.
the chair was being pulled and told कि भैया तुम इस पे बैठ के खाना खाओ.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, as Indian society, consultations and क्यों बचना है? हमने क्या बच्चे बड़े नहीं किए
So
हैं क्या?
that's where the problem is that, there's a lot of egoism somewhere. They feel that we have raised children. You are too updated with a lot of information. You have a doctor and you also have this WhatsApp community who has all the answers. And right in the center is the Google Baba, which will give you all good answers and bad answers. It is a fantastic medium, Google, I would say, but आपको पता होना चाहिए क्या लेना है उसमें से. तो इसी में हम जगल करके लास्ट में हम सब कुछ थोड़ा-थोड़ा फॉलो करके वी मेक आवर लाइफ मेस. I think just take the right information, practice. Certain advices from the ancestors are fantastic. Certain from the doctors are very good. Communities are always at the rescue, right? So सबका best बना के आप implement करिए which works in your scenario.
So this is our segment, the first food. And so my first question here is, this is from my personal experience that I've experienced that first of all, fuzziness of food in children in the West is very less, comparatively lesser than our kids,
It
Indian
is.
kids. And secondly, what I've seen is when I started, because I have a lot of friends who are in New Zealand, US, and as I was born and brought up in the Middle East, so a lot of friends have gone there. So when I started the phase where I started first food for my son, so that time they told me कि I saw their Insta stories में वो कभी duck खिला रहे बच्चे को, कभी crab खिला रहे 2 साल के एज में. एंड चलो वो तो 2 साल का है. देन वी हैड अ जनरल डिस्कशन विद आई हैड अ जनरल डिस्कशन. माय फ्रेंड टोल्ड मी कि ये पानी पिलाने का तुमको लोगों को, इंडियन लोगों को कौन इंडिया में कौन, हरसेल्फ इज एन इंडियन बट हर पेडियाट्रिशियन मस्ट बी फ्रॉम देयर, क्यों बोलते हैं. और आई स्टार्टेड विद बनाना, आई स्टार्टेड विद एग, and I started with these foods, and I started with some mashy fruits. So why do you want to give him dal ka pani all the time, and why do you want to give him such thing, rice water all the time? Give him some food. I gave it a try because my son's weight, like I told him initially, also was
Low.
comparatively low. So and I had just come through a phase where I had lost my mother. So I wanted to do the best. I mean, I wanted to try whatever. Subsequently, in my case, my experimentation, my son had banana in the first week itself. My son had egg in the first week itself. एंड ये पूरा जर्नी हमारा स्टार्ट हो गया. थोड़े बहुत हमने फ्रूट्स भी इनिशियली इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिए फर्स्ट मंथ में, एप्पल जैसे. बट यूजुअली अगर मैं किसी मदर को जाके अपना एक्सपीरियंस बताती हूँ तो दे टेल मी नहीं नहीं, पहले तो दाल का पानी देना है, पहले राइस का वाटर देने का, पहले वाटर 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 देना है, दाल वाटर देना है, फिर खिचड़ी देना है. तो उसके बाद ही हमारा वीनिंग प्रोसेस स्टार्ट होता है, वहां से फर्स्ट फूड स्टार्ट होते हैं और फिर हम जाएंगे आगे. तो I want to understand what is the difference. I mean, West के बच्चों में, India के बच्चों में, okay, maybe my son is an exception then, but what is it like?
So the primary food that I recommend my parents to start, foods for their children is fruits and vegetables because they're very, very light on the stomach. आप कुछ नई चीज़ कर रहे हैं, उसमें आपको ट्रिगर फैक्टर्स डाल दें, जहाँ पे बच्चे को कॉलिक हो जाए, डायरिया हो जाए, रिएक्शन आ जाए. You don't want to, introduce something like that. So fruits and vegetables, of course, the mentioned typical, fruits like banana, apple, pear, pumpkin, carrots, etc. These are very, very easy on the stomach. So that's the recommended list. And then I ask them to start with any kind of millet या grain so that it's a little heavier for the stomach as compared to fruits and vegetables. Now ये जो पूरा दाल का पानी का concept कैसा है, there's an interesting story behind it. So पहले के ज़माने में लोग ना 6 महीने नहीं 8 और 10 महीने तक खाली दूध पिलाते थे. There was no solids introduced, okay? So the science and everything came in that it's not enough, and then the formula companies also came and they started undermining the power of breast milk. सो बैक देन थर्ड फोर्थ मंथ से बोला जाता था कि अभी दूध इनफ नहीं है, जूस शुरू करो, दाल का पानी शुरू करो, फॉर्मूला मिल्क शुरू करो. ये प्रेशर वहां पे बिल्टअप हुआ बिकॉज दे स्टार्टेड टेलिंग ब्रेस्ट मिल्क इज नॉट सफिशिएंट, दिस इज बेटर. सो वो मार्केटिंग स्टार्ट हुआ वहां से. So the WHO particularly gave the guideline to emphasize that breast milk is a primary source. तो इसीलिए वो 6 months का ऐसे नहीं बोल सकते ना 5 महीना 5.5 महीना 6 महीना. So that's why 6 months came because I told you in the beginning of the class also that 6 months to 12 months हम breast milk formula milk को बंद नहीं कर रहे हैं. It's the primary source still. हम introduce कर रहे हैं, correct? So when you're introducing, even if you introduce at the right point or maybe a little later also doesn't matter, but the entire relationship towards the food should be good. अब दाल का पानी मूंग का पानी जब चौथे महीने के बच्चे को शुरू किया, it was clearly shown on the statistics that it is not enough for the child because they are now devoid of breast milk formula milk. अगर आपके बच्चे ने एक बार दाल का पानी दूसरी बार खिचड़ी खाई तो हुआ क्या, उतना कम दूध पिया उसने तो उसका ग्रोथ हैम्पर होने लगा. So that's where WHO made a policy, 6 months exclusive breast milk if possible, right? अब I think we should just take everything and just try and fit in what works well. For example, अगर आपका बच्चा is showing signs of starting solids, say before 6 months, because every baby goes differently, हमारी सारी उंगलियां अलग है, तो आपका बच्चा 5.5 महीने पे सारी signs दिखा रहा है that mama I am ready, then you should start solids. But how? With fruits and vegetables. Why? Because that's something new you're introducing. It's a foreign thing, right? And that foreign thing needs to be super light. So I think it's not this. There's one very favorite topic of mine, which is again controversial. I don't know whether I should be speaking on a public platform or not. Is namak, salt, and no sugar till age 1. I do not believe in that. Okay. I have my own, reasoning out there. कैसे घर के खाने में अगर आपने एक पिंच नमक डाल दिया तो आपकी बच्चे की किडनी खराब नहीं होने वाली है. I can have an entire conversation separately onto that. But लोग बहुत हैं, कल्चर्स बहुत अलग-अलग हैं, बहुत अलग-अलग बातें आएँगी. आप अपना दिमाग लगाइए और फॉलो करिए, नंबर 1. नंबर 2, योर इम्पोर्टेंट फाइंडिंग और ऑब्जर्वेशन. क्यों यूएस के बच्चे इतना टैंट्रम नहीं थ्रो करते और हमारे एब्सोल्यूट राइट. यूएस किड्स आर नॉट बीइंग पैम्पर्ड, लेट मी बी ऑनेस्ट. यहाँ पे एक बच्चे पैम्परिंग कहाँ-कहाँ से है? मामा से, दादा से, दादी से, नानी से, मासी से, मम्मा-पापा का इकलौता बच्चा. That pampering comes and that's where the child is spoiled. So that's where I always say it's we who actually create a fussy eater. हम fussy feeder बनते हैं तब बच्चा fussy eater होता है. बच्चा क्या पैदा थोड़ा ना होता है fussy eater बन के, हम बनाते हैं. So it's we who create a child, behavior that way, and that's where the difference.
So a very funny but a very relevant question. From a this is from a very close friend's interaction, and this happened with her also. If she's watching this podcast, she knows it. So मैंने जैसे कि दांत नहीं आए तो हम नहीं शुरू कर सकते. सॉलिड कैसे देंगे बच्चे को, 2 साल तक दांत नहीं आए, 1.5 साल तक. तो ये क्या रियलिटी है? ऐसा होता है या फिर इज इट दैट कि दांत नहीं भी आए तो, बिकॉज मैंने जो पढ़ा और मेरा जो रिसर्च था मेरे बेबी के टाइम पे, तो मैंने ये पढ़ा कि इसमें बोला था कि चूइंग एक्शन ही नहीं होगा तो दांत आएंगे ही नहीं. तो आप इररिस्पेक्टिव ऑफ द फैक्ट कि दांत है या नहीं है, यू गिव हिम व्हाटएवर, यू गिव हिम कैरेट फलाना डमका, एंड मेक श्योर कि वो एक्शन कर रहा है, तो अगर वो है तो निकल के आए. बट देन ये बहुत, मेरे को पहले लगता था कि ये एक ही है, एक ही कॉन्सेप्ट, एक ही मम्मी है जो ऐसे बोलती है, लेकिन बाद में पता चला जब मैं मम्मी बनी कि ऐसे बहुत मदर्स है जो बोलते दाती नहीं है बच्चे को, खाना कैसे खाएगा।
It's a very common question. I think every time in the solids class, 50% of the population has this when they come into me. So सबसे पहली बात है कि अगर आपको अपने बच्चे का दांत के लिए वेट करेंगे तो आपको 17-18 मंथ्स में कभी कभी आपको इतना लेट करेंगे स्टार्ट रोटी, क्योंकि कभी कभी कोई बच्चे को उतने लेट दांत आता है. ऑल्सो यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड, आप यहाँ से चबाते हैं कि यहाँ से चबाते हैं. यू एक्चुअली चू फ्रॉम मोलर्स एंड नॉट फ्रॉम इंसाइसर्स. तो आपका बच्चे का दांत पहला कौन सा आता है?
फ्रंट, हाँ
इंसाइसर्स,
हाँ
राइट?
हाँ।
So chewing cannot be delayed. If you're doubting your baby's gums capacity, finger डालिए और देखिए कितना जोर से आपको लगता है.
हाँ
बच्चे के gums are super strong. They can even bite a carrot. They can even bite a cucumber. So please remember one simple thing. Even if your baby starting solid signs are met before 6 months, but आपको छठे महीने के बाद ही baby led, the term is baby led weaning foods. Baby led weaning foods आप शुरू कर सकते हैं. Of course, in supervision, you need to be sure about not to introduce any choking hazards. ठीक है, जैसे कि pomegranate seed हो गया या uncooked peas हो गया, वो नहीं. So there's a list of choking hazards, वो आप eliminate करें. और supervision में बच्चे को, जैसे I teach in my progress solids class that progress like this, you will have a fabulous journey. And the primary aim of my starting solids class is कि आपका बच्चा छठे महीने पे खाना शुरू करता है और 10वें महीने पे शुड ईट योर फैमिली फूड विद द सेम मिर्च मसाला नमक एवरीथिंग. सो इफ यू डोंट स्टार्ट दैट अर्ली, आपका बच्चा कैसे खाएगा? सो मेनी पीपल हु कंसल्ट मी पर्सनली, मेरा बच्चा 1 साल का है, अभी भी चर्न फूड खाता है. मेरा बच्चा 1 साल का हो गया, 2 साल का हो गया, अभी तक घर का खाना नहीं खा पा रहा है. माई बेबी सिक ऑफ ईटिंग दैट खिचड़ी नाउ. वॉट शुड आई डू? आपको अगर मैं मंडे टू संडे 5 महीना खिचड़ी दूंगी, आप खाओगे क्या? So imagine the life of that child. So you need to get the child to family's food by 10 months. That's the agenda. That can only happen if you start early.
राइट। एंड एक बहुत लाइक बहुत, it's a very heartfelt question that I have is that, my I've been 2 years now, my son will turn 2, and ये बहुत बार होता है एंड बहुत अदर मदर्स के साथ भी होता है कि एवरी बच्चे एक एक महीने के डाइट पे जाते हैं, मतलब एक महीने पहले हम बहुत खुश हो जाते हैं मेरा बच्चा सब खा रहा है, एंड देन सडनली यू रियलाइज दैट अरे ये अचानक से क्या हो
क्या हो
गया।
गया?
देन हमको लगता है अनशन पे चले गए, लाइक मदर्स, इवन व्हेन वी मीट नीचे फॉर वॉक और समथिंग, एंड देन सम मदर जस्ट क्रॉप्स अप एंड सेज कि मेरा बच्चा तो अनशन पे ही है, कुछ खा नहीं रहा है। नाउ माय क्वेश्चन हियर इज कि ये अनशन ठीक है या फिर ये हमारी कोई मिस्टेक है, मतलब व्हाई डू दिस kids behave like this ki they are okay to like I'll give an example of my own son. Last year 7th May is my brother's birthday, so we had gone to this place called Global Fusion, and because he was just not turned one also, but I had introduced him to vegetables and all. So Global Fusion has lot of things like broccoli के बहुत items है उनके पास। हमने तो बस मजे में उसको बहुत आइटम्स खिलाए थे ब्रोकली के, मतलब आई डोंट नो, कोई वॉन्टन में ब्रोकली खिला दिया, कोई सूप में ब्रोकली, बेचारा 4 दिन तक वो ब्रोकली की पॉटी करते रहा वो। बट अभी मुझे ये, मैं नहीं कर सकती वो, मुझे पता है कि वो तो मतलब ही विल रन अवे। ऑफ कोर्स ठीक है, आई अंडरस्टैंड दैट्स अ डिफरेंट एज ग्रुप ऑल टुगेदर, बट हाउएवर आई एम स्टिल सेइंग वो भी 1 मंथ में चेंज हो गया वहां पे। तो ये, why is this pattern such? I mean, I have not changed as a mother, or I have not changed that giving him the same kind of food that I have been giving, or rather my patterns have not changed, but why do they get so bored, or is it the boredness that is the problem, or what?
No, there are so many factors from, teething to vaccination to constipation to tiredness to the weather to some stranger coming in. कभी बच्चा अंदर से खुश है, कभी नहीं है. That affects your appetite, number one. Number two, you also need to understand your child's growth is exponential from 0 to 6 months. जो 6 to 12 months में थोड़ी टेपर होती है, और आपका जो फर्स्ट ईयर से सेकेंड ईयर है, द टॉडलरहुड, योर एंटायर ईयर आपका बच्चे का वजन 1 या 2 किलो ही बढ़ेगा.
That's
And
fine.
yeah, so what we do is we start comparing. पहले 6 महीना तो एक 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 एक
हाँ,
किलो बढ़ता था हर महीना. दूसरे में एक एक किलो तो नहीं बढ़ता, बट 500 ग्राम्स 500 ग्राम्स का है. नाउ यू स्टार्ट एक्सपेक्टिंग द सेम इन द नेक्स्ट ईयर.
right.
In this rate, your child will become an elephant one day. So you need to understand that the growth actually reduces later on. And what are the primary three signs that you know whether the child is doing fine or not? Energy level. कम खा के भी आपका बच्चा सेम एनर्जी में कूद रहा है, कूद नहीं रहा है तो क्रॉल कर रहा है, क्रॉल नहीं कर रहा है तो उठ बैठ कर रहा है या हाथ पैर हिला रहा है, एनर्जी. नंबर टू, is your child peeing 6 to 8 times in 24 hours or not? That means the child is well hydrated. And number three, your regular follow-ups with your pediatrician, which will tell you the child's growth is perfectly fine. अगर ये तीन है और बच्चा नहीं खा रहा है, then it is okay for 7 to 10 days. Beyond that, if the baby is on strict hunger strike, you need to just get an expert opinion, maybe from a pediatrician, or maybe they can consult me or any other child nutritionist that they want to consult to check certain deficiencies. For example, if it's an iron deficiency, the child's appetite will get lost. But उसके साथ साथ बच्चा चिड़चिड़ा भी हो जाता है, lethargic भी हो जाता है. पर एक बच्चा जो कूद रहा है, कर रहा है, सब कर रहा है, कम खाने के साथ तो चिंता मत करो, किधर ना किधर तो फ्यूल एनर्जी है. It will, if it is shown on the child's day-to-day activity कि बच्चे में मजा नहीं है, the baby is very sleepy now, cranky, not very happy, then you need some attention. Otherwise, just leave the child. They will grow. They have these phases up and down.
So Indian parents do dairy a lot more.
I think there is one strata which does, and one strata who is supremely scared of dairy. I think if you're a pure vegetarian, for example, I'm a pure vegetarian, okay? For me, for my children, or for my clients who are pure vegetarians, dairy is a very important segment for growth. अगर आप veganism की तरफ जाते हैं, you need to make sure one thing, that your diet needs to be thoroughly balanced. If not balanced, you will have to pop in some supplementation or powders in future because the balance is not coming from all the legs of nutrition. अब बात करते हैं डेयरी की. देयर आर टू काइंड्स ऑफ डेयरी. वन इज अ जेन्युइन डेयरी जहाँ पे देयर इज नो हार्मोन, नो एंटीबायोटिक्स, इट्स प्योर, इट्स नॉन अडल्ट्रेटेड, इट्स एथिकल. एंड ऑन द अदर हैंड एब्सोल्यूट ऑपोजिट ऑफ दिस. ठीक है. सो व्हेन आई एम प्रमोटिंग द एथिकल डेयरी प्रोडक्ट्स. इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो जो घबरा रहे हैं डेयरी नहीं देने के लिए, प्लीज मेक श्योर दैट यू choose the right one. And very importantly, in the toddlerhood, mothers are giving so much of milk to the children that the child doesn't have the space to eat food. So if you think कि आपका बच्चा solids कम खा रहा है, somewhere your dairy products are going on an extreme line. Dairy is important, but everything, whether it be salt, sugar, when I say sugar, is the sweetness from healthier versions like jaggery, honey, or any other sweetener. So if they're coming everything in moderation, including dairy, तो कोई नुकसान नहीं है. कोई भी चीज आपने ज्यादा कर ली तो नुकसान है ही है. So just make sure you opt right, have it in balance, in moderation, and everything is okay.
So dairy is there, like there's no proportion to it, but still, I mean, as Indian parents, we tend to दूध पी ले, दूध पी ले, दूध पी ले, दूध पी ले.
Correct. So दूध भी कितना पीना है? Around, if I talk about a toddler, there should be 3 servings of dairy in the child's diet. Then that 3 servings can come from, say, 1 serving of milk, 1 serving of curd, and 1 serving of either paneer or
So
artisanal
that's what
cheese.
I'm trying to say.
But beyond this, अगर आप 3 बार दूध पी रहे हो, फिर आप बच्चे को पनीर भी खिला रहे हो, फिर आप बच्चे को छाछ भी पिला रहे हो, दही भी खिला रहे हो, then आपके बच्चे को जगह कहाँ से बचने वाली है? So just
Right.
balance things out well. If a child who doesn't like curd, for example, if you improvise, your milk to 2 times because the child, how much ever you try, is not eating curd, then the third becomes your paneer. Then it is fine. So just get the balance right.
Right. And how important do you think is for understanding nutrition for every parent, considering the lifestyle that we are living right now in terms of understanding these kind of diseases like diabetes and cancer? So I'm asking on a long-term basis, what is the effect of this 2 year span to equivalent to the next 20 years or so?
Not just for the kids, this tip will be for the entire family, I would say. So there are 3 legs of health. Leg number one, nutrition. Leg number two, physical. Leg number three is emotional. अगर आप तीनों में से किधर भी डामाडोल हो रहे हो, whether it's a child or an adult, you will have all these issues for future. So make it a point. Start right habits early. Focus on right nutrition early. They will have to, not do an extra effort to build it up as a habit. क्योंकि बचपन से ही राइट खा रहा है तो उनको एक्स्ट्रा एफर्ट नहीं करना पड़ेगा. सो when I talk about not just nutrition, let me just diverge a little, not just nutrition, but किस तरह खाना खा रहे हैं. आप फोल्ड योर लेग्स करके खा रहे हो, हाथ से खा रहे हो, बिना डिस्ट्रैक्ट होके खा रहे हो, तो वो आपको खाना अच्छा तो खा लिया पर पचा के नहीं। वो पचेगा कब? जब आपने बिना भागे, बिना इंस्टाग्राम देखे, बिना टीवी देखे खाया। So not just right food, but the way of eating. Gappa मार के, बातें करके, wrong. Chew your food. This is very important. So eating in the right way, the right food, number one. Number two, exercising. I don't know how many of you are focusing, but in the initial period, it's around 2 hours. Okay, 120 minutes of play important. When your child start going to school, 90 minutes of free play is a must. Outside free play I'm talking about. Okay, so वो हो गया आपका second leg, and third leg is emotional development, emotional, security. So that's again a separate topic. ये तीन करेंगे तो ही ये सब लाइफस्टाइल डिसऑर्डर्स नहीं आएंगे। खाली खाने पे ध्यान देने से कुछ नहीं होता है। तीनों चीज को बैलेंस करके यू विल गेट एवरीथिंग आउट।
So before I go into the next segment, I have one last question to ask you. Is that uh, is too much sugar consumption in this age for kids, like maybe mango juices or such kind of things, will they eventually lead to lifestyle diseases like diabetes? Are they more prone, this generation kids?
So it depends whether you are selecting a wrong kind of sweet things and the quantity. अगर आप कभी कभी दिवाली की मिठाई खा रहे हैं या कभी किसी की घर की शादी हुई है और आपने वहां पे मिठाई खाई है, टू मच नहीं खाई है, तो वो आपको कोई नुकसान नहीं देगी। बट इफ यू समबडी हु ऑन एवरी डे बेसिस is drinking a health powder in the milk thinking it's a power food is actually sugar and no power food inside. I will not name any brands out here. तो आपको नुकसान है बिकॉज आप हर रोज का 5 से 10 टीस्पून चम्मच शुगर तो ऐसे ही खा रहे हैं और आपको पता भी नहीं है। आप ब्लेम कर रहे हैं उस रसगुल्ले को, आप ब्लेम कर रहे हैं वो मिल्क केक को जो आपकी दादी ने या नानी से नानी ने बहुत प्यार से बनाई है। आप ब्लेम कर रहे हो उस लड्डू को जो ट्रेडिशनल है, जो विंटर्स में खाया जाता है। सो दैट्स रॉन्ग। सिलेक्ट द राइट sugar in the sense that table sugar कम से कम, jaggery based things which can be sugarcane jaggery or coconut palm jaggery or honey based or dates based, ये सब sweeteners अगर आप खाएंगे और मात्रा में, which means not every single day, then there is no lifestyle disorder, then it's enjoyment. Khana cannot be punishment, right? You also eat food to enjoy. Why you want to take the enjoyment away from the child? And we're so diverse in our food, right? Indians are the only people who have diversity everywhere, even in the food. Enjoy and don't be scared of right selection.
Okay, what are the common red flags when it comes to feeding 6 months to 2 years old child?
Uh, I just mentioned about this earlier, but just re-emphasizing is their energy. Okay, so अगर energy में dip है, urine में dip है, between 6 to 8 wet diapers अगर नहीं हो रहे in 24 hours, or pee counts, I would be more precise. And third thing is regular follow up with your pediatrician. WHO has made this entire growth graph, if you're aware, on back of your pediatrician's file. तो weight और height के ग्राफ पे आपका बच्चा properly follow करना चाहिए। अगर आपका बच्चा बहुत डिप कर रहा है या बहुत ऊपर है, both are dangerous. So three things and regular meeting a pediatrician will
So
just cover this
yeah,
up.
recently in someone's case also I have encountered that too much growth happened between the age of say 8.5, 9 years, and then eventually they realize that it's some form of cancer. So
Oh,
this is happening a lot around us in kids. So is food an essential reason for cancer also in kids at such a young age?
multiple things. There is pollution at so many levels, from air to
Okay.
land to water to everything. So we can't blame everything on just nutrition, but yes, it's an important part of it.
Is giving too much milk and dry fruits a green flag or red
Depends on how much are you giving. If the question is too much, is wrong only always. So ideal quantity though, so it's a very very important aspect for growth. Too much is nothing. Like water is also very important for health, but too much water is also
flag?
not good
Not
for
good.
health. Same.
And dry fruits can be given all season.
Yes, when we talk about what is the overall diet chart of the baby. अगर आपका बच्चा, so for example, when I talk about the Chavan Prash, which is made under thought foods, The Chyawanprash has a lot of dry fruits already inside. तो वो बच्चा जो रेगुलरली थॉट फूड्स का च्यवनप्राश खा रहा है उसको आप और एडिशनली ड्राई फ्रूट्स दे रहे हो दैट्स टू मच. बट अदरवाइज नहीं खा रहा है then it's an important part where the baby is getting iron, number one. And in case the baby is constipated, then soak it in water and give it to the baby. The baby's constipation will be solved.
Right.
Just remember one simple thing is हर रोज अलग अलग दीजिए. मैं आज भी डेट्स दूंगी बच्चे को, कल भी दूंगी, परसों भी दूंगी, नरसों भी दूंगी. दैट्स रॉन्ग. वी हैव सो मेनी ड्राई फ्रूट्स अगेन. Again, in Indians, we speak dry fruits, matlab kaju, pista, badam bhi. No, dry fruits are soft. Anything which is dates, figs, raisins,
Seeds.
harder things, yes, which are cashew, pistachio, walnut, are your nuts. So, ek nut, ek dry fruit, ek nut, ek dry fruit in variety every day. Like we have a norm. My kids will always go to school with a glass of milk and a nut and a dry fruit, and then their later on meals are planned accordingly. So find it out. आपका बच्चा, are you vegetarian? Are you non-vegetarian? Depending on all those aspects, you can decide on what is right for the
Right
baby.
is what is wrong. Nutrition deficiencies, what are the first red flags?
Uh, Iron. Iron is very, very important, especially in the first 6 months when the child starts solids. Iron deficiency can actually cause loss of appetite, as I told you. Chidchidapan, crankiness, baby feeling lethargic, paleness. These are the signs. So one of the important thing is just make sure that you incorporate iron-rich foods in your child's diet when you wean off, so that he nahi aaye. There are other also which you should be careful, and I think that can be picked up very well by your pediatrician on regular follow-ups. For example, if there is a lot of dryness in the skin, या बच्चे का stunted growth या overgrowth, that will tell whether the baby is deficient or doing very well in the entire journey of nutrition.
Any connection of nutrition with speech delays?
Yes. So if you have a deficiency of certain vitamins, especially vitamin B12, then it can. So sometimes, yes, there are some kids who will also speak by the age of 3 and 4. फिर जब बोलते हैं तो बहुत बोलता है. But just make sure that there is no deficiency involved. So your doctor is going to very well pick up on this. If you're not sure, you can always learn the entire nutrition profile with a child nutritionist. You can consult me as well, wherein I can tell you whether the baby is doing very well with the entire diet plan or not, or else just regular follow-ups with the pediatrician.
Right. And like just to summarize this entire conversation, is there, I just wanted to know, like, if you have any case or anything like, probably which you want to discuss or you want to highlight where, people can understand the importance of nutrition all the more. Like I asked you some speech delay case or some case which you can, tell us that, correct nutrition के वजह से बहुत सारी चीजें correct हो सकती है.
On two fronts. This is not just one particular case, but I would just try and summarize with a number of cases that I've seen so far. Many times the babies are very, very restless, or they don't enjoy their growth period. And when you actually dig into the nutrition, you get to know that bacha balanced meal खा ही नहीं रहा. And more than that, parents as well wishes are worried कि मेरा बच्चा तो खा ही नहीं रहा है. Then that is where force comes in. तो बच्चे को लगता है ये खाने का टाइम इज द मोस्ट स्ट्रेसफुल टाइम फॉर मी, कि बस मुझे बिठा दिया, किसी ने मुंह पकड़ लिया, किसी ने डिस्ट्रैक्ट किया, कौवा कबूतर बता दिया, एंड दे आर लिटरली पुशिंग फूड इनसाइड मी. So they don't look forward to meal times. They want to run away from the meal times. And that's where when you correct two things, right type of nutrition, number one, and changing the behavior of the parents. Happy feeders will create happy eaters. So if you change that, you see remarkable change in the child's behavior and likewise the growth and development. So I think it's high time. खाली क्या खाना है से focus करे, कैसे खाना है. So I think just mix this both things, and if the child is happy, the mother is happy. If the mother is happy, the entire family is happy. The entire family is happy, the society is happy. The society is happy, the nation and the world is happy. So just focus on that, next generation with the right things that you are providing from your end.
So we can end this beautiful conversation with you on this particular line saying, if mother is happy, family is happy, then world is happy.
Absolutely.
So we need to make the world happy.
And I think मदर की पूरी दुनिया ना बच्चे ने कितना खाया है पे है, कैसे
हाँ.
खाया है पे नहीं है. So I think the mother should not validate herself as मेरे बच्चे ने जितना खाया उसके हिसाब से मैं खुश होंगी और बच्चे ने आज नहीं खाया तो मैं दुखी होंगी. So stop validating yourself or how good or bad you are as a mother with the nutrition of the child. Just enjoy the motherhood.
So thank you, ma'am, for coming for my podcast and having such a beautiful conversation with you and understanding so many aspects of good nutrition for babies. Even I have a son who is going to turn 2, and like I already said in the podcast, many things I've already got corrected, and many things will get corrected after this podcast, and so on as the journey increases. So, to my audience, she's Isha Bafna, and if you liked our podcast, please like, share, comment, and do wait for some more new episodes, maybe with ma'am itself. Please share in the comments if you want to know something more, some more topics that probably we can cover, or maybe we can have small segments on those. So, thank you and bye.